Welcome to Breakout Investors. Today we are speaking with the management of Vislink Technologies, ticker VISL, specifically the company's CEO, Mickey Miller. Joining me on today's call is Breakout investor Sam McColgan. This call is being recorded on August 1st, 2024, and will be distributed via the Breakout Investor channel on YouTube and our Substack network. Supporting materials for today's discussion will be posted on the Breakout Investors collaboration app, available on the app stores and at breakoutinvestors.com. The application and much of the research content is free. So let's get the call started with me handing it over to Mickey for a brief presentation with Q&A to follow, led by Sam. Mickey?
Thanks, Josh. Happy August to all Breakout investors. I'll get quickly into this. First, of course, the safe harbor statement. I'm sure you've seen that many times before, so we'll move through that. And I just, in a very short, we're a video-centric networking company that's focused on two key markets: sports media entertainment and military government. And everything we do is around those key segments. When you look at our history, we've been around for over 50 years. We're a combination of multiple companies. I think the history, when you look back at our charts, you wonder, what happened here? For many years, this company was a company that would acquire companies, not integrate them, but put them together. They would raise money, they would burn through that money, and then do a reverse and start all over again. I think what we'll show during this presentation is what we've done since we arrived in 2020 and what we plan to do in the future. But what we have here is a global brand. Trailing 12 months at the end of March was 28.9 million, a very manageable 112 group of team members, but over 200,000 systems sold throughout the world with blue chip customers, which we'll go into, and many of you know. As I said, global, and we've got over 120 partners that we've done business with throughout the year. In these two key segments, live production, you see there one of our partners, MotoGP, which is one of the fastest growing sporting brands, just recently acquired by Liberty Global. Has been a partner of ours for 20 years. On that bike that goes 220 miles an hour, there's 4 cameras. There's a camera on the helmet and a camera on the shoulder. And all that wireless connectivity is managed by a Vislink system. And then similarly, that helicopter there is Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade did an upgrade last year of their entire communications infrastructure, both police and fire. Motorola was the integrator that pulled it all together, and we are a key element of that in outfitting all their air-to-ground capabilities for Miami-Dade County in Florida in the U.S. Just to give you what we love about this company is our mission is to create technology to entertain the masses and protect those who serve us. And so with that, we have the pleasure and the honor of supporting many of the greatest brands in sports media and entertainment. Today, as we speak, throughout OBS, the Olympic Broadcasting Service, we're supporting a variety of activities in Paris as we speak. There's many beauty shots, camera shots, all the elements, anything that's wireless typically is Vislink technology today. Formula One, BBC, Disney. We just completed a large build out of the new headquarters in New York, and so these are the kinds of relationships that we've had. CCTV out of China, brands like the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, strong, and the National Hockey League, strong brands that rely on us for mission critical communications. On the government side, it spans not only here in the U.S. but globally. As you can see there, the Met Police, everything from the UAE, Jordan, anywhere where there's geopolitical challenges, you can typically see our systems being deployed. And then, of course, our history of providing the military all types of transmitters and receivers. And then just recently, we've been building out our OEM capabilities. People like Airbus. Airbus has 3 different levels of rotary helicopters, and we are the standard for all 3 of those. And then, as you can imagine, all others that are either in unmanned or manned, airborne, we have relationships with them, and this is a key area for us where we'll talk a little bit more about. So what's been the driver? We produced a 3-year plan where we talked about getting to cash flow neutrality by the end of this year and positivity in 2025. We're still on that track. We see areas for investment, so we're working on continuing to improve our operating platform so that we can drive additional investments in our R&D capability. We see tremendous opportunity for us in the markets that we serve to grow at a much higher rate. So MilGov is an area that's historically been less than 40% of our revenue in most cases, depending on the year, depending on the project, with live production, sports media, entertainment being the bulk of our business. But our 3-year plan talks about MilGov growing at a much higher rate such that it becomes a much higher percent of our business. And that's not because live production or live entertainment and sports is going down. It's just growing at a slower rate. We lowered our break-even point by increasing our operating efficiency. We have plans to continue to do there. We've got a major ERP upgrade happening in September of this year. Currently, we operate on 4 different ERP systems, and that's, again, historical through acquisition. We'll now migrate those to one instance, which will improve our ability to manage inventory, to be more cost effective, and service our customers in a more reliable way. So we're very excited about that implementation in September. We've done a lot on the go-to-market side. Bill Sweeney, who heads our go-to-market team, has been a MilGov veteran for over 25 years, knows the space well, and has been able to help build those relationships both with OEMs and the end users. This is a bit dated. We have updates, which you'll hear on our second quarter earnings call on the 14th of August, but we continue to build our pipeline around these opportunities that I discussed. So the product and solutions, strong IP, and that IP both is in the hardware and software. We're building up our software capability. One of the key elements of our 3-year plan is to increase our recurring revenue. Currently, that stands about 10%. We want to drive that over time to as high as 30%. And that comes from several areas. One is we have Link Matrix, which is our management platform, that now we can remotely interrogate every one of our units. So we can remotely service and upgrade software with all of our units. And that allows us to drive recurring revenues, support revenues, and service revenues. Installation is a big key, and then extended warranties and SLA. So those are the areas that we focus on. Our longer term growth is to increase our ability to bring AI capability, because as you can imagine, many of our customers are on consistent missions every day. If we can bring AI to help them understand those videos, what's happening in a more elegant and efficient way, that drives value for them and for us as well. We've got a wide range of both onboard capability. So that means everything from body worn to auto or motorcycle or air. And we extend that to the manned and unmanned area as well. So when you look at what we do, it's really the same core things. We just repurpose the same core technologies. That's been a big initiative for us in the last 3 years. Rather than historically, the companies would find an opportunity, build something specific for that. But when that opportunity then went away, they would have a stranded inventory. But what we've done now is standardize around the same components, the same semiconductors, the same types of circuits, so that we can repurpose those and reuse those across all applications. Because at the heart of what we do is take video, compress it, and send it over the air and manage it very efficiently. One area that we've seen good opportunities in is our mobile viewpoint acquisition that we did in 2021. That brought bonded cellular. So we're the only company today that can send signals over our own proprietary systems, on private 5G systems, and on public 5G systems, 4 5G systems, and 3G as well. what Mobile Viewpoint allows us to do is bond those together. So you could have up to 8 SIMs, so 8 streams. So if you're in the US, you could have 3 Verizon, 3 T-Mobile, and 2 AT&T, and stream whatever video data, metadata you want, and then it pulls it together on the other side and distributes it to the cloud or wherever you need to go. So talking about our target markets, live video, we break it into 4 areas. Live video connectivity is the bread and butter that we do every day, and that's been a long history. So that could be in studio. So, you know, everything from ESPN studios to The View to a lot of reality TV where you have 40 cameras, use our wireless technology to bring those to life. In the venue, this is actually a picture, it's hard to see, but the Super Bowl halftime, as you can imagine, you know, to be able to get cameras inside where the dancers are and the artists are, you can't do that with wired equipment. It's got to be wireless. And that's the core of what we do. We bring just high stakes, that need high quality and reliability. We make that happen, and we're known as the leader in that area. So that's, people trust us for big events like that. Because can you imagine in the middle of Super Bowl halftime, the money that would cost those broadcasters if they even lost just, you know, 1 millisecond. And so that's what we bring. On location, this is outside the World Cup where you can do interviews. That's over the public networks. As I mentioned, all types of motorsports, body worn. And then we have an AI product that allows you to basically create a broadcast level quality production without camera people. And that works well for those sports, tier 2, tier 3 sports that don't have the ability to schedule camera talent to come out to work the cameras. And that's something we've introduced and seen a real interest out of our customers on. So that's kind of the historical higher revenue business. Air to ground video is a piece that's been the second highest for us, with our acquisition of BMS in 2023, September of 2023. This now brings us as an area where we're seeing tremendous growth. And that's everything, probably 50% of what our customers do with these things are search and rescue, but also surveillance, emergency medical, of course, news gathering, and crowd control. But I know many of our customers, when I go in to their facilities, many rooms have 5 to 10 screens in each room, and they have a center screen, which is the largest screen. And 8 times out of 10, the screen they're looking at is the air to ground screen because they can see so much from it. So that's an area that we see tremendous. As you know, in the US, I mean, having air covered through drones or manned would have made a dramatic impact on what we've seen in the political environment. And so we see that as a key area for us to grow. And then the second or third area is video data transport. So what we consider this is we'll take images, live video from borders and send that over the public networks or over private networks. But we call that video data transport. So it's similar to live video connectivity. Sometimes it's not live. And so, but the ability to take images from key areas and bring those back is an area that we're seeing tremendous growth in. We had an opportunity where we built out, and we're still in the middle of providing for this opportunity, where we built out an entire very large border in our streaming over bonded cellular back to the cloud for one particular country in a very difficult area. And then lastly is our smallest area, but our highest potential growth, and that's drone command and control. We have one customer, Schiebel, which does this day in and day out. That's one of their products there. And they're one of the leaders in the class 3, class 4 drone area. We see this as a tremendous area because it's taken the core concepts of what we've done and taken it into the unmanned space, both air and ground. And so this is an area where a lot of our new platform development is around this, because the need here is to be able to do multiple drones, not just a single rotary or fixed wing. So there are some differences in how we would manage that technology, but this is an area that, we'll do, little in this area. Again, it's a small piece of our business, but we see this as a tremendous upside. So best way to look at this, kind of the growth areas go from left to right. Still good growth in live video connectivity, higher growth in air AVDS and video data transport, and then highest growth in the drone C2 area. So one of the things I want to highlight is the products that go into this. Again, you peel these apart, and in here are the same semiconductors, the same circuits. So it's not like we're developing things differently for this side to this side. So we're able to leverage our operating platform to serve these key markets. So that is something that will help us improve our cost base, improve our inventory right now. We haven't done a great job with inventory. We're sitting around, less than 1 turn. We see tremendous opportunity there, particularly as we get on one ERP system, so we can be much more capital efficient. And then from a cost and scale base to serve customers, leveraging and having strong relationships with key partners in these areas to serve our customers is very important for us. So a standard product platform is a key to make that happen. I talked a little bit about go to market. That's a key area for us to continue to grow and leverage the relations we have. You'll see we're rebuilding our digital platform. You look at our website. It's not the best website as you would want to have for the markets that we're in. We're going to be introducing a new website at the end of this month and improve our SEO, and that will attract not only and support our existing customers, but we think will drive new lead growth, particularly in the areas of tier 2, tier 3 sports media entertainment, as well as smaller departments and governments throughout the world. Because we tend to hit the tier 1s, we tend to already have relationships and focus there. But again, that will keep us with the proper SEO on top of mind for those departments as well. So, one thing about live production markets, it's pretty, I would say, resilient to economic situations. We've seen in recessions that there's still an insatiable desire for live type of productions. I think India is a great example. India, we've had good growth in recently. 3 years ago, the middle class in India wouldn't go to a live event unless it was free. But now, with the growth in those markets and the appetite for high quality live events, that market is really growing well. We see opportunities. We've sold into our partners that support major cricket leagues, soccer leagues, football, etc. And we see that happening throughout the world, where it's live production and live entertainment is recession proof to some degree. Use cases we talked about, everything from paddock areas to air to ground at live events like Formula One, major marathons, major bike events, and then of course things like MotoGP. We're almost finished here. Public safety markets, as I mentioned, largely air to ground, and we see this migrating largely air to ground, but also video data transport, and we see this migrating to the drone area as well. I mentioned Link Matrix. This is our software platform that pulls it all together so you can remotely manage and know exactly what's happening throughout your entire network. And this is where we put an AI layer on top of to help automate things for our customers. So when you look at what we do in a nutshell, is we have all the elements to take content, compress it, send it wirelessly over any type of medium, whether it's bonding with Starlinks, bonding with geolocation satellites, bonding with 5G, with our own proprietary networks, hybrid networks, private networks, all in the most sophisticated compression and wireless capability that you can have, and then the ability to have applications that run on that give you the things you need depending on what your use case demands are, whether it's camera control, video return. It can all happen in the cloud. It can happen on premise, and then the ability to play that out and transport that to wherever you need through wireless networks. So that's what we all bring together through our software, link matrix, automation, and control. So that, at a nutshell, is what our inherent IP capability is to bring these services and solutions to our customers. So I think Sam showed you, what our numbers look like. This is Q1 of this year versus Q1 of last year. We've got improvements across the board in sales profitability, and we continue to see areas for us to improve our cost base, improve our ability to support our customers, and grow in the markets that we've talked about. For our 3-year plan, we talked about doubling our business from last year. In 2026, we're on plan to do that, and we're working very hard to make that happen. So the highlights, we've done a lot with this business. I joined in January of 2020. We made it through COVID, and then we aggressively, while COVID, we were doing many of the underlying things around consolidating facilities, consolidating resources, working on our strategy around the technology and standard components, working with customers to build relationships, and we continue to do that. We're also opportunistic around M&A partnerships that we see would make sense for us, and so that's who we are. We've got a great team in place. Many of them are new. We just hired a new VP of Ops to help us drive those synergies that we talked about. Bill Sweeney is our new head of sales. He was he joined us at the beginning of the year as our MilGov lead, and now we've consolidated that and have him run all of sales. And Adrian Lambert is our VP of marketing. He's putting together a first-class marketing effort, both digital and physical, to help us drive additional leads that we can close. So that's who we are. We're really excited about what we're doing. We love what we do. Our mission to entertain the masses and serve those who protect us is very special to us. We're very proud of it, and it's an honor for us to do this every day. So with that, open it up for questions, I guess.
Thanks very much, Mickey. It's a great presentation. I'll open it up for everyone. There's quite a lot on the call, so I'll open it up for everyone to ask a question. But just while everyone gets warmed up, I'll just start with one. When we spoke a little bit about your background, Mickey, and I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about that to everyone. I think you have a relevant and impressive background, so if you could touch on that.
Sure. I basically have been at the intersection of analog and digital my entire career. I'm an engineer by background, but have been in business in a leadership capacity for many years. Some of the highlights have been I led a business that was part of Lucent Technologies, a power systems business, which basically powered data centers, central offices, and as well as board level things to Cisco systems and the entire Silicon Valley infrastructure back in the 90s. We sold that to Tyco Electronics. I ran that business for 4 years. We sold it for $2.5 billion. I joined a company called Andrew Corporation as president. We grew that business and Andrew was the leader in, at the time we were building the leader in last mile wireless connectivity. So this dates me a bit, but we were, that was pre 3G basically. We basically were deploying 3G systems throughout the world in over 120 different countries. And we built that business from 800 million to 2.2 billion and sold that to CommScope for 2.6 billion. Ralph Faison, who is the CEO of Andrew, is on our board, as well as Jude Panetta, who ran a business for Andrew, is on our board as well. So after that, I started my own company, Blink Networks. We sold that Ralph Faison was also on chairman of that board as well. That again was a software-defined radio for 4G, 5G systems. The company's doing incredibly well. We sold that to CCI in 2016. At the time, I was working with private equity companies. One of the private equity companies I was working with had an interest in Vislink, and we found it very interesting for the reasons I said. It was a financially troubled company that wasn't doing the proper operations. We thought with the right focus, given its history, the customers that it has, the affinity that the customers have for the brand and for the company and for the products and technology, that we could build something really special. And we still believe that. We think that with our customers that we have and the potential in those customers to serve them in a much more intimate and expansive way, that we think there's tremendous opportunity to grow the brands we have and continue and bring on new customers.
Brilliant. I'll just invite anyone, if you'd like to ask a question, feel free to come off mute and ask it. Otherwise, if you want to post it in the chat, I'll read it out. And I'll just quickly read out this first one that's posted in the chat from Steph, which says, you're guiding to double your revenue by 2026. What kind of gross margins and Opex would you hope for, if you can share that?
Yeah, great question. Our goal is to at least stay where we are on the margin side. And a lot of that depends on mix, but the goal there is to stay there. On the Opex side, one thing I mentioned to you, Sam, is, and I think you had in your piece, is we have a potential for operating leverage, because a small company like ours, that just being public, it's $400,000 just to be on NASDAQ, and then you have the legals to be able to produce the SEC documents. You have accounting. Those numbers don't change whether you're a $1 billion company or whether you're a $25 million company. So that from an operating expense standpoint, we should see better efficiencies there, because once you pay that down, like I said, you can scale, and that doesn't scale with you. An area we want to continue to invest in and lead in is R&D. So I think we have a position, like I said, we can get more efficient through operations and indirect costs through this ERP implementation. And so I don't expect those areas where we'll be increasing costs, but R&D, I think there's areas for us to take leadership. And when we see that, and we see customers that say, hey, we want this, and we're willing to commit to provide for early revenues against that, then we may increase revenues or increase R&D a little bit higher. But other than that, we think from an operating expense standpoint, because of the leverage and because of the efficiencies opportunities that we have, that we think we can improve on where we are as a percent of sales.
Thank you very much. Chris, you posted one in the chat, but do you want to ask it yourself? They may be sick of hearing my voice a little bit, so.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, congrats on your massive turnaround over the last 3 years. Company was definitely in need of repair, so kudos on that. Recently rolled out a few new products. How has interest been so far in Click and LiveLink?
Great question. Thank you, Chris. I just want to say, we're just getting started. We are really just getting started. But LiveLink has been well received by our customers, because when you look at that is just a smaller, lower power, and more efficient of our Ultralink. So if you look at the size difference, so obviously camera operators love it. We had a deal with a large police department in the European Union, where they have them on their belts to be able to take images from drones and images from body cams to the cloud. So the small size of it is well received. the power, which means, these things are battery powered. So the more efficient they are, the longer battery life you get. So they're very happy about that. And then the weight, so it's less weight. So well received. Click. We're introducing the wide range click. So now you can be at 2 gigahertz to 7 gigahertz. So customers are really excited about that. The other one that customers are really excited about is Dragonfly, which is the simple body worn, and that can be used in ref cams, base cams, body worn in any type of environment. It can be used in covert applications. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that. And the beauty of that, in all these new products, they're either our proprietary COFDM networks, but also public or private 5G networks as well. So it gives customers the options on how they want to get that information back to their cloud or to their operations in a very flexible way.
Great, thank you. Maybe one last one from me. What can you tell us about how soon you might turn cash flow positive and what kind of impact that will have on the company? Obviously, small companies are not cash flow positive. You get a bit of a discount. So I presume that's a priority. And what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we committed to cash flow neutrality this year, fourth quarter, and then getting cash flow positive in 2025. The balance where we work to balance there is around R&D investment, because we're seeing so many great opportunities coming in the markets that we serve. We've got to be judicious there and make the right decisions around how we allocate capital, and then also focus on being cash flow positive. So that's our balance that we do every week, every month around capital allocation of, this is a great opportunity. We may not be cash flow positive, but look what it will do next year. So it's that kind of analysis that we do consistently on the opportunities that we're seeing.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
The next question in chat is similar to the question that I have, so I'll read this one and then I'll add on to it. Gareth is asking, in terms of drones, it would be good if you could discuss a bit on the differences and advantage of your system compared to existing technology used to stream video data back. And then to expand on that, my question is, what does the competitive landscape look like for you guys across all of your products? And once again, is it the IP that you guys have and the technology that differentiates you from the competition? In what leads you to winning these deals versus the others that are also competing for them?
Okay, yeah, great questions in a couple parts. So let's talk the drone market. We see drones, depends on whether it's the applications, but largely there's 4 classes or groups of drones. Everything from the group 1, which would be DJI type stuff, to group 4, which is the very long range military type larger drones. And so we currently today are in that class 3, class 4 area, and where there are larger drones. We're talking about 5 to 7 feet kind of drones, and so they can carry a payload, and in those the value that our customers like is we have tracking antennas that allow them to sufficiently track them for many miles, and so they get extended range, and with that they get very high quality video in return, as well as the ability to command and control those drones. So today that's where our sweet spot is, and that's typically a market that there's some smaller players, and then there's some larger players in the NATO type projects like L3 Harris and others, traditional primes and subprimes. But where we bring is a very cost-effective solution that's highly reliable, and that's kind of the beauty of what we have, because for broadcasters for 30, 40, 50 years, they've perfected the ability to take super high quality video at a high pixel rate and be able to send that around the world. And we're able to do that for our customers. So they're seeing very high quality that they can do a lot of things with, terrain analysis, et cetera. So that's key. And for us, we're able to do it very cost effectively against the large primes and subprimes, or even support them in many cases. And then against our smaller competitors, which are largely privately owned. There's no publicly owned companies there. What customers like about us is scale, our roadmap, where we're headed, where we can bring them to in a cost-effective way. Because as you can imagine, once you make an investment from a technology standpoint, you want to make sure that particular supplier is going to be able to evolve their technology as your needs grow. And that's where we're focused. We think we have a very interesting way to address the class 3, class 4 area, as well as start going into the class 1 and class 2. Currently in class 1, DJI, is a leader from a drone standpoint. Obviously, in the U.S. and parts of Europe, there's challenges there as Chinese develop drones. However, in many cases, they're well received and do a great job for first responders. But what they do is they use the Wi-Fi spectrum, and the Wi-Fi spectrum is unreliable by design because it's unlicensed. So you and I can get on it, everybody else can get on it. Whereas most government agencies have the ability for their own licensed spectrum, which only they can use. And our technology operates on those areas, which require different semiconductors, because you can't buy a Wi-Fi chip and operate on those. You can't buy a 5G chip and operate on those. Those have very specific RF semiconductors, as well as overall FPGAs, to be able to support those license bands that governments and global agencies use in a very licensed and secure way. And we think we can bring that capability down to the class 1, class 2 area, because there's a need for, people are using very low cost drones, but in a very sophisticated way. And they want to have reliable, quality, high data rate capability from their C2 capability. And one last part on that, the key in the US for drones to be able to use en masse is to be able to go non-line of sight. And that's what's held things up. And to go non-line of sight, you've got to make sure that you have a secure connection to that drone. Because right now, if you go non-line of sight and you lose your connection, the drone has to hover. So the reliability of your missions are always at risk if you're using unlicensed bands to be able to support it.
Just to add a follow-up question, I think some of the things that you were talking about in terms of your competitive advantages and what your organization brings to your customers is around the reliability of what you guys do and the ability to scale as things evolve. It sounds like, with that being said, you guys are very sticky with your customers. I assume you have very low turnover of your customers and they've been with you for quite some time. How do you see that continuing?
Josh, we do. And the key to that is to show them that we have the product roadmap and support to be able to support them as they move from different compression technologies, different wireless technologies, and then also bring them, hey, here's some AI capability that we could bring that's going to help you be more efficient and more effective in the missions that you run as a customer. So the key there is that we show them and demonstrate for them. Number one, they know that we know these use cases better than anybody. And when there's a problem, they know who to call. But we have to show them that we're headed from a technology standpoint and a support standpoint in the direction that they see as the most viable to be able to serve them as they're growing and supporting their customers or the public at large.
All right, question from someone who sent it to me before the meeting. They're wondering how you kind of manage the distribution of your products.
We have both direct channels and indirect channels, and depending on where we are, and a lot of that's historical, and so largely in Asia we go through partners. In the Middle East, it's probably 50-50 direct through, and then through channel, and then in Europe, it's probably 20% channel, 80% direct, and similarly here in the U.S. So it's a variety, and it's more legacy. But one area that we are growing is our channel relationships. As you imagine, there's a lot of great countries around the world that are looking for growth in the areas that we serve, and so you'll see us build up our indirect channels much more than our direct channels. It's just a more efficient way.
Thanks. And a follow-up one that's related to that is particularly about the Dragonfly, new Dragonfly 5 product. One of the investors was trying to find information about it online. They found it on your website, but couldn't really find it on like channels or places where there might be reviews and things like that. Could you I'm just wondering, is that a done thing? Like, where would someone go for like reviews on your product to see how they compare to other products and things like that?
Yeah, as I said, I think I said earlier in the presentation, our digital presence hasn't been that great. We have a huge opportunity to improve there. We hired Adrian Lambert earlier this year. We're going to see massive improvements there, and that's one of them. Right now, Dragonfly 5 is in early beta with many of our key customers. So we're working through those beta tests, and then as that becomes more mainstream. But our goal is to have out-of-box reviews and all the normal things you see from digital forward companies that we haven't been. So we have an opportunity to improve there dramatically.
Great. I'll just call on the audience, see if there's any more questions. I've got a few more, but if anyone else would like to go.
There was one follow-up in the chat regarding the conversation around drones, and it was on the topic of, is your technology typically retrofitted in, or are you working with drone manufacturers to be included in the original product?
Great question from Gareth. Yes, we are working with drone manufacturers. That's number one. And then, but we also see where particular end user customers like a specific drone for a specific use case and say, hey, could you retrofit this? And depending on the opportunity, we either typically do that at a third party. There's several third party houses that can do that. And then we support them on the comm side. What we found in working with drone companies is, I mean, they're very, very skilled, very intelligent, and mass capability around aerodynamics, mechanical, key technologies, but the comms technology and the video compression technology and the ability to wrap it all together with a software wrapper is an area that we found is an opportunity for us to support a variety of different OEM drone manufacturers.
One more coming from the chat. Using the Olympic Games as maybe an example, do you supply hardware only, or are you doing full support? And maybe specifically looking at the Olympic Games as something that only comes around every couple years, right? Do you guys do any type of leasing of your equipment, or is this always fully purchased by those that are going to be using it, and that's the model that you use in terms of selling the product?
Yeah. Great question. And for something like the Olympics, it's all the above. So the Olympics is, such a large event, but we have our customers, so our production customers that are hired by the Olympics to produce these various events that are using our technology that they acquired. We have other customers that, existing customers that maybe have 5 or 10 sets, but want to lease 5 to 10 sets for the event. We do that as well. And then we have broadcasters that want to have a service. So we have people in Paris today that are operating a service. Beauty shots. We have our AI cameras being done for beauty shots, where you're a announcer and behind you is a live streaming video of the Eiffel Tower. That's our AI making that happen. So all three. So we have a service component, we have a lease component, and we have a hardware sale and software component.
Another one from me then. In terms of your team, looking forward, what kind of gaps are you hoping to fill?
In fairness to my team, I think let me just I talked about who has joined. So the team is we've been able to build the team because when I first got here, it's always hard when people to see the vision when they look at the history of Vislink. So we're now at a point where high quality talent we can bring in from the leadership level. So we've, as I mentioned, hired senior VP of sales, VP of marketing, VP of operations, VP of human resources, all within the last 6 months. Let's see, we're already in August. So in the last 9 months. So, a strong team there and, really qualified people who have had successful experiences doing similar things that we're asking them to do here. And so, I'm really excited about the team we have. And then with that team, you can always build from there and bring in people that either they know, and we've been able to do that quite a bit, where they've worked with people that they view are the best in their category and their skill set, and we bring them in to support us. So, we made a major upgrade there, and really happy about that. And so, but I think there's areas for us to continue to grow. Particularly, we see, as I said, opportunities to grow on the R&D side. So bringing in very talented engineering capability is a high priority for us.
Great. I'll just remind everyone that we're probably finishing around 55 past. So if anyone has any last question they wanted to ask, now's the time. Before they jump in, I'll ask my last one, which is just if you can walk us through kind of what the major, say, 2 or 3 risks are in your mind to someone who might be investing in your company.
Yeah. So I think sales cycle, in the markets that we're in, government markets, many of them are federally funded. That is sales cycle, and when the funds are deployed is a big issue that we work with every day. And we have, you can see our funnel is increasing, but some of those are taking longer to close from time to time, not for product or solutions or customer need. It's largely due to budget constraints in federally funded things, governments going through changes, things like that. So that is always a risk in the MilGov sector, and I think you see that from people who participate in that. So our goal there is to be able to get our funnel large enough that we can withstand if 1 or 2 or 3 opportunities drop out in a quarter or 2, you're able to quickly pull in another. So that's how we try to mitigate that risk. I think from a the ability to develop the technology that we're there is technology risk. We try to mitigate that through the circuits that we're using and balance how much is leading edge versus that we can make sure we can get out at the time cycle that we commit to. So that's a huge area for us that we're focused on. And making sure, and then as I said, an ERP upgrade happening, that's always a risk as you go through that. It's going to be great to have, but I've probably been involved in 15 ERP upgrades in my career, and none of them go the way you want to do exactly up front. So that's a risk. And then what happens after that? And so, I'm very confident that will mitigate those risks and get to where we want to be. It's just that time between now and then. We're a small company that we want to get to that next stage. And with there's always risk because, as I said, we want to get to those cash flow goals, but that means you have to be very judicious and frugal with the assets that you have and the capabilities you have and the resources you have. So we don't have the luxury of going out and say, hey, we're going to go spend X amount of dollars. Even though we have the cash, we don't want to do that. We want to be very disciplined in how we deploy the cash. I think I'm a large investor here. I view the stock and anything that would dilute the stock would make sense to me. I view this as an owner, and so we're going to be very judicious in how we deploy cash to get the best return. But if we see something where we go, hey, we can deploy $2 million of R&D and get a 4 to 5 times return through customers that we do business with today, and they want to commit to this next generation of technology, you'll see us make that bet. But then we'll look and say, okay, what can we do in our existing operation to offset that incremental spend, and how do we do that?
There's 2 more questions in the chat, and this will probably be all the time we have, but it kind of ties into what you were just referencing in terms of looking at where the technology is going and letting your customers kind of drive the direction you take in terms of opportunities. One of the questions is there a typical refresh cycle when it comes to like TV broadcasting equipment, or for that matter, any of your equipment that's out there, and maybe a specific upcoming technology change that you see that would drive additional need for new product or a refresh of your products? So that's question 1. And then I'll tie into that question. As you guys look to expand and double your revenues over the coming years, is there going to be need for more CapEx to meet that capacity with that technology change and things that might be involved with that?
Okay. All right. The first one, very quickly, historically in the broadcast world, and to some degree in MilGov, key drivers were, going from 1080p to 1080i to 1080p to 4K historically, going from H.264 to H.265 compression. Those used to be big drivers. And then waveforms, LMST, DVB-T to DVB-T2. But I think we've seen changes as streaming has become such a huge part of the broadcast, the consumption of content that you don't see it as stark. We do see people say, hey, we're ready to upgrade to 4K, but you just don't see the starkness of it because, a lot of times streaming is 720i, so we don't see that as much as we used to. But there are cases where you do see, okay, we're going to a major, we want to go to DVB-T2, so we're moving that direction. So that's number 1. Spectrum is always something we keep our eye on because the government and governments throughout the world many times will go, hey, broadcasters, you need to move from this band to this band. It happened in 2012, I think it was. It was a huge windfall for these players in the market because basically they're given they're massive money to move all the transmitters and receivers from one band to another, and that requires a hardware upgrade. And those are difficult to predict, and we don't bet on those. Those aren't part of our planning. If it happens, it'd be great, but we don't have that in our planning cycle. Because as you imagine, if they say, okay, broadcasters, we want to take this 2G and auction it off to the Verizons and AT&Ts of the world, and we're moving you to 6 gig or whatever, then we'd have to upgrade the entire network. But again, there's always talk of those things. Very difficult to predict. That's more political than anything else, and we don't have that in our planning cycle. So. That's that. And then lastly, CapEx. We're pretty CapEx efficient because in our own facilities, we're largely integration and test, some assembly. We leverage third-party contract manufacturers to do a lot of board development and production for us, so we don't need to buy surface mount machines and things like that. So we're CapEx light. Again, the big driver for us that we look at every day is R&D. Should we tweak up R&D because there's tremendous opportunity, and can we develop the products that meet that? But as Steve Jobs used to say, is you got to say no most of the time. So we're very judicious, but there are some times where we see some things that we want to say, hey, let's develop this, because it's not just for this customer, but it can transform the entire platform. And something like that, we look very, very hard at, but that would require increases in R&D, which, as I said earlier, we try to offset. Can we get offsets in other parts of the P&L to offset that? Sometimes you're successful, sometimes not.
Well, thank you so much, Mickey, for the time. We're coming close to the end of the hour, so we'll wrap up. But yeah, brilliant chatting with you again. I'm sure that everyone on the call, loved hearing, or really appreciated hearing your answers. I just point out that Vislink has earnings call coming up in 2 weeks on the 14th. And if you'd like to kind of read more, I've also done a write-up, which you can find on Substack. But thanks again to Mickey for taking the time with us. And yeah, we'll watch with anticipation.
Well, thank you, Sam and Josh, and everybody on the call. Really appreciate your time today, and appreciate your interest in Vislink. We're really excited about it, and very grateful to tell our story today. So thank you.
Neither Breakout Investors nor any of its affiliates makes any representation or warranty, express or implied, as the accuracy or completeness of the statements or any information presented by this podcast, and any liability, including in respect to direct, indirect, or consequential loss or damage, therefore is expressly disclaimed. The views on this podcast expressed are those of the speaker and not Breakout Investors. No one on this podcast is an investment advisor, and no one is providing investment advice. Before investing in any company stock, you must do your own research. Thank you for listening.